نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Okay, inshallah we will be continuing with our Arabic grammar and Nahwa lessons, and we will continue with the introduction. So last time we were discussing some of the terms such as kalima and the definition of ism, fi'al and harf. And to continue with that, we have the term kalam. So kalam, also known as a jumla. There's a slight difference according to some scholars between jumla and kalam, but there's nothing wrong with saying that they're the same thing essentially. So they're basically utterances, words consisting of two or more words which have an isnad, a relationship or a link between them, and that relationship is such that it creates meaningful information. They like to call this complete benefit about the umda, the core message. So an isnad is a relationship between two words that gives enough information that the sentence makes sense essentially. Like you won't be thinking what's going on after hearing that statement, that the statement doesn't make sense. Rather, once a person says such a thing, then the sentence makes sense. For example, Zaydun qa'imun, Zayd is standing. So from that we know Zayd, it's a statement which makes sense. We know that Zayd is standing. Of course, there are other questions which others may ask regarding this point, like when was Zayd standing or where is he standing. However, the statement Zayd is standing by itself provides information which is meaningful.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay, and so isnad is that link between the words which gives that meaning so that nothing else is needed to make sense of the statement. There are two types of kalam or jumla. The first one is jumla ismiya, which is a sentence which is formed of at least two nouns. And the second type is jumla fi'liya. So these are verbal statements. So the sentence is a combination of one verb and one noun. So there are only two situations you can have where there's a musnad and musnad ilayh together, and these two situations are essentially a jumla ismiya or a jumla fi'liya. So what that means is you can only have two types of sentences which provide complete meaning. Sentences that make sense to a listener. They are either jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya. And one thing you can do before we move on to before moving on, what you can do is you can open somewhere in the Quran, maybe Surah Fatiha or any other Arabic text, and try to figure out which words are isms, nouns, which words are fi'ls, verbs, and which words are harfs, particles, and try to guess what type of jumla is being used. So there's no such thing as a particle sentence, as a jumla harfiya, a sentence which is a harf. You only have jumla ismiya and jumla fi'liya as a side note. But try doing that, and inshallah, you'll be able to monitor your own progress. So the next part, now we're starting. We've kind of completed the introduction. We've discussed what a noun is, what a verb is, what a particle is in Arabic. We've discussed the types of sentences, and now we're going even deeper into these topics, essentially to determine how these types of words affect sentences grammatically. So the first thing we have is an ism. It's a noun, and so straight away you have something quite detailed and quite deep, seemingly. So you have nouns which can be divided into something which is and you also have nouns which can be mabni, mu'rab or mu'arrab. It's translated literally as declinable. It just means words which have vowels that change. Mabni, they're indeclinable, they never change. So mu'arrab nouns that are grammatically, so here it's just another way of explaining the same thing. So sentences or expressions which are constructed So they have grammatical construction, and this is known as a tarkib when there is grammatical construction. And they are with words other than themselves. And they are not similar to originally indeclinable nouns, mabni al-asl. So that means they aren't similar to nouns which resemble mabni al-asl, like hadha is a noun, but it's similar to mabni al-asl, and therefore it won't be considered a mu'arrab word. So mabni al-asl are basically huruf, particles, or the 6 forms of the imperative verb, so al-amru al-hadir, and madi verbs, so past tense verbs. Some people, there's a bit more. There's some grammarians mention a fourth type. In other words, all sentences they consider them mabni al-asl. So if there's a word which is similar to that, then it will also not be mu'arab. It will be considered from mabni, and that's what an ism mabni is. An ism mabni is a noun which is not joined with another word, and it is not similar to mabni al-asl. So once again, mu'arab is a noun which is joined with another word, and it's not similar to mabni al-asl. Ism mu'arab words are also known as ism mutamakkin. This is because it's possible because it's possible for these words to have a tanween, a nunation. The ruling of ism mu'arrab is that its ending changes with the change of the awamil. Awamil are words which act upon and govern other words. So it might be there's a verb before it which wishes for this word to be a subject or an object, and based on that the i'rab, the vowel, will change. And this can be literal, lafzan, or it can be taqdiran, estimated. Some more important terms, such as i'rab, which means declension. So it's the thing which changes at the end of the mu'arrab word. So you have a mu'arrab word, and the letter or the vowel which changes at the end is the i'rab. This can be a dhamma, the u sound, a fatha, the a sound, a kasra, the e sound. It can be a waw, a ya, or an alif. Right, so these types of nouns can be in 3 states. So you have halatul rafa', which is the nominative state. You have halatul nasab, which is the accusative state, and you have halatul jar, which is the genitive case. Another important term is the amil. The amil is that through which states or types of i'rab are achieved. So the amil is that which causes specific states. Right? It causes them, it achieves them. And the mahallul i'rab is the last letter of a noun or a verb, a mudari verb, which changes. So just clarifying, although a mu'arrab is a type of noun, in terms of changing state, in terms of being mu'arrab, declinable, only ismul mutamakkin and mudari verbs, future tense verbs, can have their states change, are mu'arrab. This next section is very important. So the types of i'rab for a noun. So what vowels and how does the ending of a word appear in each state in each possible state in the Arabic language. So here there are 9 ways that the last letter or last vowel can appear in Arabic. The first one is that you'll have halatul rafa'. The nominative case will be represented by a dhamma and u. You'll have halatul nasab, which will be represented by a fatha, and you'll have halatul jar, which will be represented by a kasra. So example is qama zaydun, right? So in this example, qama is the amil, zayd is the mu'arab, the dhamma is the i'rab, and the dal, the letter dal in Zaydun, is the mahallul i'rab. And to see it appear in different states, you could say marartu bi Zaydin or ra'aytu Zaydan. So in the nasab and the jar states. The second type is when, and this first type is specific for three categories of words. That is when the last letter isn't a harfu illa, so ism mufrad sahih. So for example, Zaydun, in this word the last letter dal is not a harfu illa, a waw or a ya or an alif. Like similarly, if the last letter is a waw or ya and before it is a sakin like dalwun or dhabyun, then this rule will also apply there. Or if the word is a jam' al-mukassir al-munsarif, so it is a plural, broken plural, so it's not a plural that fits the specific pattern of the Arabic language. It is a broken plural and it's munsarif, it can change. Then it will also follow this rule. The second category of words are those that are represented by a dhamma in halut al-rafa. They are represented by a kasra in both halut al-nasab and halut al-jar. And this is specific to the jama' muannath salim, so the sound feminine plural like muslimatin. So you'll have ja'a muslimatun, so Muslim women came, and this is in the marfu' state. And you'll have in both the mansub and majroor state, the halatul jar and halatul nasab state, you'll have it as muslimatin, marartu bi muslimatin or ra'aytu muslimatin. The third category of words is that halatul rafa will be represented by a dhamma, and halatul nasab and halatul jar will be represented by a fatha. So this is specific to ghayr munsarif. So ghayr munsarif are types of words which we will cover after we finish discussing these categories. But we've already alluded to munsarif words. Ghayr munsarif are basically words which fall under certain types, certain categories or conditions. So if there are specific conditions which apply to a word, then they will be ghayr munsarif. We'll discuss this in more detail inshallah. Fourth category of words in terms of i'rab are those which are halatul rafa, and when they are halatul rafa they are represented by a waw. When they are halatul nasab they are represented by an alif, and when they are in halatul jar they are represented by a ya. These are asma'u sitta mukabbara muwahhada, so they are 6 specific nouns which are abun, akhun, hamun, famun, hanun, and dhu. Right? So this only applies when the nouns are not diminutive, so they're not in the tasghir form, and they are singular. They cannot be in their dual or plural form, and they are annexed. They are mudaf to something other than ya mutakallim. So they are not in their normal state, like abun, like ja'a abun, a father came. Rather, they are mudaf, but they are mudaf to a word which isn't ya mutakallim, because when a ya mutakallim is attached to the end of a word, then it has its own set of rules. This would be, for example, ja'a abu Zaydin, so the father of Zayd came, or ra'aytu aba Zaydin, or marartu bi abi Zaydin, etc. So, and also ja'ani akhuka, or ra'aytu akhaka, or marartu bi akhika, or ja'ani akhuka wa abuka wa hamuka wa hanuka wa fuka wa dhu malin, or ra'aytu akhaka wa abaka wa hamaka wa hanaka wa faka wa dha malin, and wa marartu bi akhika wa abika wa hamika wa hanika wa fika wa dhi malin. So that's how all of them would sound in the different states. The fifth category of words are those which are represented by an alif in halat rafa, represented by a ya preceded by a letter with which carries a fatha in halat nasab and jar. So with halat rafa it's just an alif. In halat nasab and jar you'll find a ya there, and before the ya is a letter which has the sound, which carries the vowel, a fatha. When a letter carries a fatha, it's known as maftuh. This is specific for dual words and its attachments, such as kila and kilta, when they are attached to a pronoun like kilahuma and kiltahuma. Huma means it's an objective pronoun which refers to two people, they. And the words ithnan and ithnatan, which means two as well, which can be used for emphasis. So as an example, you can say ja'ani rajulani kilahuma wathnan. In halatul rafa, you'll know it's rajulani. There's an alif after the lam, which is maftuh. Likewise, ra'aytu rajulaini, where there is a ya, and before the ya is la, which has a fatha on it. And kilayhima and wathnaini. Ra'aytu rajulaini kilayhima wathnaini. And that's it for that category. The sixth category we have is a waw preceded by a madhmum. So this means a waw preceded by a letter which has a dhamma and sound. And a nasab, halatul nasab and halatul jar are represented by a ya, which is preceded by a maksur letter, a letter which carries a kasra. This is specific to the jama' mudhakkar salim, the sound masculine plural, and its attachments like ulu and ishruna and its sisters. By its sisters, so ishruna means 20, and when we say its sisters, we mean similar type words like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So thalathuna, arba'una, khamsuna, sittuna. They will also have these same rules. So they will be represented by a waw preceded by a letter with a dhamma or a madmum letter. Slight note, before you get confused, you'll notice that there's a noon at the end of a dual word, and a plural word. So rajulani, two men. There's a noon at the end, even though the rafa is represented, the nominative case is represented by the alif, or rajulaini, the accusative or genitive case are represented by the ya. The noon there, it's known as a noon tathniya or noon jam'a, and they are all and the noon of tathniya is always maksur, meaning it will carry a kasra, and the noon of jam'a will always have a fatha, it will have a sound, but they both drop when they are with idafa, with annexation. So for example, talibani means two students. When you make the mudaf, it'll become taliba. So you want to say students of knowledge, will be two students of knowledge will be taliba ilmin. Or many students of knowledge will be talibu ilmin. By itself it's talibuna, but when it's mudaf it'll be talibu. The seventh type is the same as the first category, where rafa is represented by where rafa is represented by dhamma, nasab is represented by fatha, and jar is represented by kasra. So they would have all been the same as the first category, except they are muqaddar, they are estimated, hidden, essentially. This is when there is an alif maksura, right, at the end of a word, like Musa. Alif maksura, so like Musa and Asa, these are known as alif maqsura, mim, qaf, sad, waw, ra, ta. That alif which you see there is an alif maqsura, and in those situations the states of the vowels are hidden. Yeah, they're estimated. So you'll say Ja'a Musa, wa Ra'aytu Musa, wa Marartu bi Musa. It wouldn't change. And this also holds true for words which are annexed mudaf, so possessed by ya mutakallim, right? والمضاف إلى يا المتكلم غير جمع مذكر سالم, other than جمع مذكر سالم. And of course also which aren't tathniya as well. So if words are mudaf annexed to ya mutakallim and they are not tathniya or jama', then this rule will also apply. The eighth rule is not the eighth rule, the eighth category of words in terms of i'rab. The rafa state will be represented by a taqdeer dhamma. So a dhamma which won't literally be there, you'll just assume that there's a dhamma there. It's taqdeer. The nasab will be represented by a fatha though, so you will actually read the fatha. But with the jar, you'll just assume that it's kasra, although you won't read a kasra. This is specific for words which are ism manqus, and this is when the last letter is a ya and it's preceded by a letter which carries a kasra, which is known as maksur. For example, qadi, judge. So qadi ends with a ya. There's a ya at the end of qadi, and this ya is preceded by a dad, which has a kasra. So you recite ja'ani al-qadi. No, al-qadi. You won't say al-qadiyu. You'll just read it al-qadi. You'll assume that there's a rafa. There's a dhamma there. But when you read it in the mansub case, you read it nasab, you'll say ra'aytul qadiyya. And when we read it in the majrur case, we'll read it marartu bil qadi. And the final type of i'rab, category in terms of i'rab, is when the rafa state is represented by a taqdeer waw. So you'll assume that there's a waw present, although you wouldn't see it. And the nasab and jar are represented by a ya. And this is specific to jama' mudhakkar salim, which is mudaf to ya mutakallim. So it's a normal jama', a normal plural of masculine words like muslimuna. So you'll say ja'ani muslimiyya. This was originally muslimuna, and then you got rid of the noon because of the ya, so it became muslimuyya. And one of the rules of sarf morphology is when there's a waw and ya together in one word, and the first one is sakin, then the waw and ya become one into a ya, and then you change the dhamma into a kasra, so it's more appropriate to recite the ya and becomes muslimiyya. And you read ra'aytu muslimiyya and marartu bi muslimiyya. So in all states, it essentially looks and appears the same. So someone might ask, how come you're considering the waw to be hidden, taqdeer, but not the ya? Why are you not saying that this ya is taqdeer? This is because in the halatul nasab and halatul jar representation of jama' mudhakkar salim, a sound masculine plural, like muslimina, when you make it mudaf, you get rid of the noon and it becomes muslimi, right? And then muslimiya, so the ya is still there, and you add another ya for idafa and become muslimiya, so it's just two yas together, and the idgham happens. And that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a bit longer and lengthier, but I wanted to go over all of the categories of i'rab. If you have any questions, please leave comments. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.